Oh, right. Good morning. I am so excited to start my January webinar with workers' comp because what is more fun than workers' comp practices? And as someone who's had some negative experiences as an employer with workers' comp, I felt it was very fitting to start 2026 with these things. So thank you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Melissa Tompkins Lewis. I am the owner of South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions. I am a veterinary management consultant. I have been hosting these webinars for over, I think, about 2 years now, and it's been so much fun to bring in education to all of my friends and members and colleagues and all the things. So I really appreciate being able to do this for you guys. I have my meetings on the second Thursday of every month at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will probably have to adjust the September one. I know it's a long ways out, but it happens to be the same day as the first day of the VHMA conference. So I will be adjusting that one a little bit, but I'll let you guys know when it gets closer to that time. If you are on my email list, you'll get an email every time I'm having a webinar, and then I also upload it to my YouTube channel so you can watch it later. For those of you who can't stay the whole time today, no problem. It's going to be recorded and put on my channel probably next week, so you'll be able to access it and you can share it with anyone else that wants to see it. Jess did share the slides with me, so I will be able to send her slides to everybody who attends today, which is great, or anybody who actually registered as well. So appreciate that. If you'd like to follow my YouTube channel, it's at South Coast Veterinary Manage 263. You're welcome to follow it, like it, whatever it is that you call it for that for YouTube, or you can stay on my email list and I will send you the email updates as well. But if you change email addresses, you'll want to make sure to update me so I can keep sending it to you. So long-winded, but I would love to introduce my good friend Jess Molina, who is going to be talking to us today about workers' comp best practices and post-injury management. I've known Jess for several years through the VHMA, and she's a very great speaker. She knows everything, every question I think I've ever asked her, she has an answer to. So if you need to phone a friend, she is that person you should really have in your Rolodex because she knows all things. I'm only going to give you a brief introduction, Jess, and I'll let you take it away. But she does work currently for Hub, which is associated with AVMA. She's a risk analyst and a CVPM and a PHR. And if you have any questions about your risk at your hospital, oh my gosh, she is the lady that answers that. And if you're an AVA member, you might also have her visit your practice because she flies around to hospitals and inspects them and gives them great information about risk and stuff like that. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jess take it away and go ahead and take over and tell us about yourself and then go ahead and go through your presentation. I would love to hear more.
Yeah, so the first and number one question I normally get is, what does Hub have to do with AVMA Trust? And so Hub is the broker. So the Hub is the insurance broker for the AVMA program, and I am the dedicated risk consultant specifically for veterinary. So specifically for those AVMA PLIT members. So that means I get to spend my time supporting and serving members on everything from safety, regulatory compliance, and risk. And many of you who are AVMA PLIT members may not realize that you have a plethora of free resources and tools through the AVMA PLIT program. So, of course, hit me up after this if you just want to kind of review what is that? What does that mean? How do I access all of this great information? I'd be happy to do so. So we'll get started. Thank you. I do really appreciate you all joining this topic. I think it's very, very important. I I see where there's some gaps and some opportunities that create exposures and increase cost associated with workplace injuries and workers' comp coverage. So this is a great opportunity to help reduce injuries, reduce cost, and improve employee safety and morale. Because Lord knows we can't afford to have people out of work if we can avoid it. And as Melissa just posted in the chat, if it's something really, really pressing, by all means, feel free to interrupt me or throw it in the chat, and Melissa will interrupt me because the chat is off to the side of the screen. Or you can reserve it to the end. That is fine too. All right. So for those of you who aren't familiar, I don't know why there we go. It's just a little slow transitioning for that first slide. Aren't familiar with what the AVMA Trust is or AVMA PLIT, very, very interesting terms. This particular webinar is brought to you by the AVMA Trust. The AVMA is the leading advocate for the veterinary profession, representing more than 100,000 veterinarians. Veterinary members, and the AVMA protects, promotes, and advances the needs of our veterinarians. So, in the late 50s and early 60s, the AVMA developed two insurance trusts, AVMA PLIT and what is currently known as AVMA Life. PLIT and Life operate together as what's called the AVMA Trust under the AVMA family umbrella. The AVMA Trust program ensures that AVMA members and their practices are protected by offering a wide variety of comprehensive insurance coverages designed specifically for the needs of veterinarians and veterinary students. A few of the offerings, this is just a few, there is way more, but some ones that you might be familiar with or didn't even know that they offer include things like professional liability, license defense, personal insurance coverages, workers' comp, business, property, general liability, employment practices liability, commercial, auto, data breach, and cyber liability, and so many more. Again, if you have any questions about coverages, you can visit the AVMA PLIT website or shoot me an email and I can forward you to the right individuals. I don't sell insurance, just so you know, I'm a risk consultant. All right, so first, I think it's important that I just briefly cover what is workers' compensation because I don't want to assume that everyone is experienced with workers' comp claim, or even understands that type of insurance and coverage. So, workers' compensation is insurance that provides cash benefits or medical care for workers who are injured or become ill as a direct result of their job. So you, the employer, pay for this insurance, and employees do not. We can't even pass on a portion of the cost of workers' compensation or any cost associated with that. Any of those cash benefits in medical care, it's paid through the workers' comp insurance carrier to the specific entities associated with it. So, for medical, it would pay for things like treatment, diagnostics, and therapy. In the disability category, things like lost wages or permanent disability benefits or awards. Even some expenses associated with work-related injuries like mileage reimbursement to go to and from appointments, translation costs if needed. Um, I'd hope that we don't see any fatalities from a work-related injury, but unfortunately we do. We see about 1 to 2 a year. And so in the event of a death, workers' comp pays benefits to the dependents as well as burial benefits. And then should someone be injured significantly and can't return to their normal job and need to be retrained to do some other type of work, it does offer vocational rehab benefits such as retraining tools and equipments. So, in a workers' comp case, no one party is determined to be at fault. The amount that the claimant receives is not decreased by the claimant's carelessness, nor increased by an employer's fault. So, that's some other very, very interesting things to know as well. That's a brief overview. Any questions so far on that?
There was kind of a separate question, but I'll ask, since we're taking a break for a second, I'll ask you. So for the insurance benefits for life and car insurance and the other ones, are those only for the DVMs, or can you also sign your team members up for that as well?
I don't sell insurance, so all the details of the particular coverages I don't really know all of those, but I do know that there's an employee health benefit program. So I do know that much. But again, you can refer to their website and go through all of those coverages and read more information about who is entitled to those benefits and how to apply for them. Or you can even schedule a call and just have someone walk you through all the various coverages and applicabilities. That's the wonderful thing. And there's no pressure. Because remember, these are veterinary professionals for veterinary professionals, so they're not in the market for haggling or harassing you. It's not what they do. So low risk, low stress, feel free to explore. All right, so when an injury occurs, so best practices here is you really want to have a policy, you want to have it built into your employee safety manual and your SOPs for reporting injuries, that it's reported immediately. So I always say give them some specific perimeters, like injuries should be reported to supervisor, manager, owner, whatever, whoever the reporting to is in your organization, but that they report it, within 24 to 48 hours. Now, some people wouldn't say, why not within minutes? Well, sometimes the supervisor isn't there at the time, right? So, I like to kind of give a window of true reasonability. But it should be reported immediately. Make sure your policy reflects that. And that when the injury occurs, that you are receiving, and I'm just going to say you throughout this presentation, as if you were the person who they're going to be reporting to. I'm going to generally assume if you're on this call that you have some responsibility in regards to workplace injuries and reporting. So you can, of course, pass information along if there's other individuals in your organization also responsible. But you want to make sure you get a full detailed description of the injury, including where it occurred, how it occurred. That even means all the steps leading up, the tasks that were being performed at the time of injury, as well as witnesses. And you're going to want to make sure that all of this gets documented on forms. And I always say, make sure the person that's reporting it to you is the one filling out their applicable forms. Because I've seen some organizations where they are allowing the managers are completing the employee first report of injury. Best practice is the employee report of injury, not the claim, the report of injury. They are filling it out in their writing and in their words. Because what you don't want to do is if there's an issue down the line, and we can talk about some of those issues later, is it to be a he said, she said, because you're the one writing it on their behalf. Now, I do get it that sometimes you're going to have an injury where they're unable to, at the moment, write for themselves. It's okay to capture the information on the first report of injury form or the employee report of injury form, and then provide it back to them when they're able to finish completing it and ask them to provide or correct any details or information. But try to get that directly from the source. That also includes witness statements. So best practice here is to if an employee who's been injured reports that it was witnessed by another employee, is that you provide that individual with a witness statement. And I don't give away, personally, I don't give away too much information because I, again, want the witness to tell me what they did and didn't see. I don't want to feed information to them that maybe they didn't know or didn't see. And so I don't want them capturing things that are untrue. So what I would do is hand them a witness statement. And we're going to say John Smith is injured and Mary is the witness. Mary, I understand you witnessed an incident or injury involving John. And then let Mary state she did or didn't, and then what she actually did or didn't see. Now, sometimes Mary might say, I don't know what you're talking about. And I might give a little more information. I understand that there was an incident involving a dog and John was bit. Very, very simple as that. And see if that, because it may just be that she didn't recall or wasn't aware specifically of what you were talking about. And then let her capture what she did or didn't see. Now, if Mary says, I don't know what you're talking about, I did not see anything, I don't know why he said I was a witness, then just say, Mary, on the witness statement, just simply write, I was not a witness or I did not witness an event, and then sign and date it. You want to collect all of that information because it's going to play a role in the claim validity, but it's also going to play a role in your incident investigation process, which also is part of injury and post-injury management best practices. So again, we'll talk about that a little more later. But also too, there is a separate training which I have done for Melissa in the past, which is on her YouTube channel. If you want to go back and review that recording, that one goes comprehensively into incident investigations. And that one is called To Err is Human. So I'm going to encourage you to go back and watch that because we won't have time to go into great detail today about incident investigations. And so now the next kind of step is to confirm if medical treatment or first aid is needed, and if so, to seek that appropriate attention. And then from there, supervisor, you want to report that claim to the carrier as soon as possible. Idealistically, the moment you find out about it and collect all the information, best practice is, less than 3 days. And really quick on medical treatment. So, when you have an on the job injured worker, some states allow the employee to choose where they go, and other states, the employer has the right to direct care. So you've got to be really, really careful about that because sometimes I'll hear that an employer or see in a policy that an employer says, if you are injured, you must seek medical attention at blank family practice or, city urgent care, whatever it is make sure in your state you are allowed to require, because those are different. And you can just simply go on your state workers' comp division website and look up that information, or you can reach out to me and I can help point you in the right direction. And you can post what's called a physician's panel. And as a matter of fact, some states actually require you to post what's called a physician panel. And a physician panel is basically a list of providers in the area that see workers' comp related medical needs. And you can post that, and that gives them an idea of places to go. But whenever possible, it is encouraged that employees be recommended, or if you're able to require, if you're in a state that allows you to, for them to go to a daytime or urgent care practice versus the emergency room. And so most injuries, those can be seen and treated in an urgent care practice or some type of daytime practice, and that helps save a lot of money because urgent cares are typically less expensive for medical treatment than an emergency room. And maybe reserve encouraging employees to go to the emergency room unless it's serious or life-threatening. Or in some cases, if it involves rabies exposure, we know that some urgent cares and daytime practices don't have rabies vaccines. So that can change the scope of care. But again, if you do at least post where all of the care practices are nearby, you can highlight urgent care and workers' comp appropriate daytime practices and say, hey, here's where it's more optimal for you to go to. That can help you save a lot of money when we talk about claims dollars. Now, you want to be really, really prepared when you send in information with the injured worker. You need to make sure that they have workers' comp information. They have the carrier and the policy number, and they provide that to the provider because what happens sometimes is if they don't have that information, they may provide the provider with their personal insurance information, and now you've got to go help them file for reimbursements, or the employee might be paying out of pocket, and then you are working to file a claims reimbursement with the carrier. We know our employees do not make a ton of money, and some of them are living paycheck to paycheck. So sending them with the information for workers' comp, the carrier and the policy number, and making sure they have that even for picking up prescriptions at the pharmacy, that they provide that information, that can help them from paying money out of pocket. Are we all following along so far? I just want to make sure if there's any questions. All right, so one thing that I didn't cover, and we're going to move on to this slide in just a moment, but when you're sending the injured worker with the workers' comp information, so the carrier and the policy number, it's a great best practice to help you save money and transition the employee back to work in a timely manner by preparing what I like to call personally as what's called a grab and go kit. And so, like that grab and go kit is going to have injured worker information. It's going to, share with them the carrier and policy information. It's also going to provide a little bit of information about what their responsibilities are, like reminding them that they're responsible for keeping you abreast of their medical care and appointments. They're providing you the information from the provider. Maybe also including a copy of their current job description, as well as a light limit or restricted duty opportunities, so that you can help highlight to the medical provider that you're willing, should the employee's injury prevent them from doing their current job, that you could or would be willing to provide them light limited or restricted duty assignments, and maybe providing them with a couple of job descriptions of what that might look like, or even just a letter to the provider saying, hey, we are an employer who offers early return to work under light, limited, and restricted duties. Here's a blank activity prescription form. If you would complete it with what their limitations and restrictions are and allow us to accommodate them, we can find work that fits within those perimeters and transition them back to work more timely than being out of work, because they don't have use of their right hand. We can find work for them to do that solely uses their left hand or allows them to sit down versus stand or stand for shorter periods of time or whatever that potential injury might compromise. So that's a great best practice, is having that return to work grab and go kit. So far as that, I want to make sure, because that's sometimes where I do get a few questions. But do I have any questions so far?
Nope, we're good.
Fantastic. Okay, so claim reporting. Claim reporting is a huge opportunity for improvement. I know because I look at claims for the AVMA program just about every week. I'm slicing, dicing, and analyzing claims for various practices and national practices. And I see errors and incorrect information and omissions that really make it difficult for timely processing of claims. Now, I don't process claims, but I use that information to help support and guide hospitals from a risk management standpoint. And if you are also using that information, that data, it can be a hindrance or create obstacles and challenges for you to identify themes and opportunities if the claims information is not correct as well. So claims accuracy and timely reporting plays a role on both ends for your benefit as well as the claims management benefit. So speed. Studies show that claims that are delayed in being reported to the carrier, they tend to incur higher cost. And it's not because of a penalty. It's typically because the claim is filed late because you weren't aware that an injury had occurred, or you and the employee tried to self-manage the injury, and unfortunately, the condition or seriousness of the injury worsened. Right? Like a cat bite that, you just scrub and say, let's see how it goes. And then all of a sudden it becomes infected. If you think about it, if they're going to the doctor the minute that the bite occurs, it might be an exam, cleaning, antibiotics, and pain meds. However, if we try to say treat it ourselves and then it becomes infected and then we go and get treatment, treatment can take longer. Sometimes that's a more urgent appointment, like maybe they do have to go to the ER now versus urgent care. It might need debriding. It might need diagnostics to analyze the extent of the injury, like tissues or nerves and things like that. And then not to mention that could also mean now some type of therapy or rehab for functionality, additional meds. And so that claim can be much larger because they waited to have it seen. Now, I saw that in a chat. Someone just posted this exact thing happened, and then it ended up needing surgery to repair the issue. Absolutely. That's what happens sometimes. And then now, some people say, well, we can't force an employee to get medical attention. You are absolutely correct. You cannot make anyone seek medical attention. But what you can do is have a policy that states that animal related or any type of opening of the skin, right? Puncture, uh, bites, scratches, things like that, seek immediate medical attention. So you could say, all bites and scratches should receive immediate medical attention. So I haven't mandated, but I've kind of emphasized and stated that, our policy is that we encourage you and lay out the foundation to get that seen immediately. And then I also educate on why it's important to get those seen right away. And I never talk to the employee about the financial impact. I explicitly discuss with them my interest in them and their care. As those things get nasty, they get nasty real quick and they impact your health and well-being, right? Like I want you to be able to do the things that you love doing. I don't want you compromised. So the sooner that we get those things treated, the better off that you are. And that can help reduce severity of that injury or that escalation of injury. So speed is very, very important. Those claims that are reported later are typically uh, care that's provided later. We want to get that done early on. Accuracy is also really, really important. This allows the claim to be triaged and the best resource be assigned to handle that claim for optimal outcome. And so some things to really be careful of when you're reporting the claim is first and foremost, for those who use a claims reporting system, meaning that you electronically process claims, is I know some practices are allowing the injured worker to go in and file their own claim. Although you technically could do that, I would say take caution in doing so. Best practice is for the employer, to file the claim. Reason being is the very first purpose and reason of this is do we want to allow and encourage employees to report injuries to the carrier before you even know about it? Like you really want to be the first person to know about injuries, I would hope, and to be able to do your due diligence in a work-related injury. The second piece is the very first question the system asks is, do you question the validity of this claim? Do you think the employee is going to put no? Exactly. Now, what if this was a non-work related injury and they filed a claim themselves and put on there that they didn't question the validity and it's flying under the radar and then you don't know until you receive some type of confirmation from the claims manager that the claim has been received or accepted. So you want to be involved in those early on. And the second thing is mistakes in spelling or information. We really want to try to be consistent and specific here because one thing I get with some of our national practices, they like to track data for individuals who've had repeat injuries or multiple claims in a period of time. Well, that's really hard when you have someone, we're going to just say Christina, and her real name is Christina, but she goes by Tina. And then someone files it as Christine, and someone files it as Tina, and someone files it as Christina, and someone files it as Chris, and then someone files it as Christy. Every time they get a claim, someone puts the name in differently. I would say best practice here is what is when they go get that medical attention and they're filling out their medical forms, what is that name going to say? Most likely it's going to be their actual legal name. file the claim under the same and consistently do so. And before you hit that submit, double check that information. Also, missing data points such as date of hire, date of birth, social, occupation. Um, the other things too is try to, if it asks for address of injury or location of injury, make sure that you're consistent with that. So if you are reporting the practice name, then always use the practice name. If you're always using the practice address, always use the practice address because sometimes I'll see differences where they use the clinic name sometimes and they use the address sometimes. Again, being very, very consistent because hopefully you're going to be reviewing your claims on a regular basis and looking for opportunities to create improvements or develop further safety education and so forth. And that's going to be very, very important. Also, a clear description of the event, the injury, or the injured body parts. And we're going to talk about that next. Okay, so online claim reporting. This is where we're talking about getting clear, specific, precise information. So all the forms that you're collecting in-house, that employee first report of injury and your incident investigation, you can be as wordy and as detailed as you want to be. But the biggest thing that I want you all to try to focus on is when you're filing claims, being direct and specific and clear. Because when I look at a claim, some people are very, very detailed and specific. Other people, I'm scrolling through a novel and sometimes it doesn't have enough character fields. And I've already read 3 sentences and I still have no idea what the actual injury or cause was because they gave too much detail. It was a cold winter day in August. The sky was gray. Sally was walking to cat and it's cut off and I have no idea what happened, right? So try to think about that in your claims reporting. So I like to first and foremost say, think about the details. Employee was taking radiographs when cat bit left index finger and thumb. I didn't need to know all the steps leading up and all the other details for the claim. That's all in your reports and your incident investigation. For the claim itself, very specific. Body part. If your carrier has a drop down for any field, I don't care what it is, from nature of injury or body part, scroll through and read your options first. Don't read your options and stop at the one you think best fits so far. Go through, read them all. Make note of which one you think is the right one and keep scrolling through because there might be one that's better, a better fit. So instead of saying head, if you notice in this particular carrier, they have head dash skull. They have head dash nose. They have head dash teeth. So scroll through and look instead of just defaulting to the first thing, for time's sake. You really scroll through and try to assign it. Same thing with nature of injury is try to be specific. So if yours does not have a drop down and you actually have to fill it in, try to be specific. Teeth, left thumb, right thumb, whatever it is, try to be very, very specific. And then examples of the nature of injury would be things like puncture, laceration, sprain, contusion, etc. And then because I get this question a lot, just in general of a comparison, from an injury standpoint, you're not shockingly enough aware that animal related injuries are the highest frequency of injuries or claims. But they are not the highest dollar claims. The highest claim dollar injuries are typically handling related. So things like lifting, pushing, and pulling. That can be animal or boxes or large items. But those are our 2 highest claims from a dollar standpoint and from a frequency standpoint. All right. I want to pause for a moment in case anyone has any questions about claims reporting. I didn't see any in the chat, but that's okay.
I have one. If you're that list of that you just showed with like the different parts of the body was significant. If you entered something and then you need to change it, does it look bad on you if you go back and change it, or how do you make an amendment to something if you didn't enter it exactly correctly and you
Uh,
wanted to get more detailed?
There are so many workers' comp carriers out there, and all of their systems are
Okay.
different, and some of them are more sophisticated or detailed than others. I would always submit it to the claims manager for edits or revisions and why. Because I'm going to assume that you've received some evidence or information that has clarified or caused a discrepancy in that. And just making sure that the claims manager is aware too. So I would start there. And if they say go in, or the system allows you to go in and make revisions, then go in and do so. But just make sure you clearly call that out to the claims manager. So anytime a claim is accepted, a claims manager is assigned to that claim, and you'll have that contact information. So you'll reach out to them with the claim number and let them know what new information or changes in information have come up. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So when an injury occurs, we're going to continue on now. So you've got all of these documents and you've got them off to getting the care and you've got your claim processed. You now want to get that incident investigation performed as soon as possible. And idealistically, an incident investigation, you all as managers, it's not best practice for you to be the sole person to do incident investigations. Incident investigations should be you and, if possible, one or two other responsible, information sensitive individuals, like someone who's going to be privy to the information and respect the confidentiality of workers' comp claims and information. So I always like to say, like maybe a medical director or the owner or someone else. And the other reason for that is it gives you that administrative purview, like reviewing your policies and procedures and steps and training and all that, while also taking into consideration scientific factors. And when you bring those together, you get the best review of an incident investigation and you can help really get down to the root cause and the most optimal corrective action. And you should be including the injured worker, asking them to share insights and perspective and opportunities because they were the ones who experienced the injury. They also were involved in all the steps leading up, knowing exactly where and when the hazard had the opportunity to present, and if there was potentially a way that that could have been mitigated or minimized. And so you want to make sure, and I'm just scrolling down the checks. I thought it popped for a moment, but it didn't. Okay. And so that's going to include evaluation of the event, evidence, witness statements, and you're really going to dial into the root cause. You're going to determine the corrective action and execute that timely. And your incident investigation, I would send it in as well and have it supplement the claims documentation. Now you say, why? Well, the reason why incident investigation documents are helpful in with a claim is one, if you're questioning the validity of a claim, or which happens once in a blue moon, a claim takes a life of its own. It starts to spiral and things start to occur, and you're starting to think that perhaps there's some crossover with some personal or pre-existing things, or non-work related events or activities with work related. And that incident investigation also helps support any disputes or concerns with that work related injury or claim. And all injury forms and incident forms, they must be secured. You know, that they include medical information, and workers' comp claims are confidential. And then don't forget to complete your OSHA 300 and 301 documents. And then you're going to work with the provider and the injured worker on a safe and timely return to work process, which we already talked about briefly. So we talked about minor injuries, how those can escalate. I do get questions about notice only claims. Notice only claims are where the incident occurred, Uh, and per se injury occurred, but it did not result in medical attention. Sometimes you just want to let the carrier know that the injury occurred, especially if you think that medical attention might transpire. That you've encouraged the employee to seek medical attention, but they didn't, and you're not really sure if it's going to end up needing to be seen or if the employee will later go back and seek medical attention. You can file a notice only claim, so it just kind of captures that detail. And should the claim need to be opened, you've already started the legwork and got some of that detail in. Again, all cuts and cat bites and scratches are recommended to be seen by a human healthcare provider. So anytime that animal punctures the skin, would definitely get it seen, or the potential for infection to set in, because sometimes we're cut by scalpels or needles or slides, the glass slides. So OSHA record keeping, that is required for employers over 10 employees. However, I would recommend that you do your OSHA logs whether you're 10 employees or not, especially if you plan to grow. Just having that good habit and having that documentation, that kind of gets you ahead of the curve should you ever hit 10 employees than having to backtrack. But in all technicality, if you're 10 employees, if you're under 10 employees, you do not have to. Now, I do get the question about, national practices. If you belong to a national practice group, I strongly advise everyone to be doing their OSHA 300 logs because there can be some lack of clarity there in reporting and should you ever be inspected. Okay, so what is a recordable injury on your OSHA 300 logs? That's any new work-related injury that results in medical treatment beyond first aid, loss of consciousness, amputation, or hospitalization. Information must be on your OSHA 300 log within 7 days. Remember to go back and update the time loss or days in restricted or limited duty. Regularly go back and make sure that's updated because you might fill out the log the day of injury or within 7 days, but they may be out of work or on restrictions for 14, 30, 60, 90, who knows how many days. And you want to make sure that you go back and update your 300 logs with the right information. And then just a reminder, the 300A portion, only the 300A portion must be posted from February 1st to April 30th. And I'm not saying that because I'm saying don't forget to post that one. I mean specifically, do not post the other two. Those contain confidential information. That does not get posted. That gets secured. Only the 300A.
Is there any negative for the 300A form? I've had hospitals that I like do an evaluation and I come in and it's like July and it's still posted. Is there any negative consequence to having it posted all year when it's for the year before?
No, there's no negative. I see it all, it's fine either way, but you only have to post it from that time period. It doesn't hurt anything either way. And now some people say, well, if it's posted, it's inspectable. Well, if an OSHA assessor, if an assessment by OSHA was done anyway, they're going to ask for OSHA 300 logs in general. So they're going to see it no matter what. So irrelevant kind of there. So. And then, just in case there's some lack of clarity on where and who workers' comp applies to, I like to include this slide. Owners and officers. Some of them elect to be included in the workers' comp policy, some elect to be excluded. So if you have an owner or an officer of the clinic who is injured, you need to find out if they're on the policy or not, because they may have elected to be excluded. And if so, then it's not a workers' comp claim. That would be their personal insurance or out of pocket themselves. They have the right to do that. Employees are a workers' comp claim. So if they receive a W-2 from you, they're an employee on your payroll, W-2 employee on your payroll, workers' compensation. Client injuries. Client injuries are what's called a general liability claim. They do not go on workers' comp or OSHA 300 logs. So no workers' comp claim. Relief vet. This is the gray and sticky area. If they're on your actual payroll, not not your AP, like if you pay them as a vendor, that's not your payroll. If they are on your actual payroll, they are workers' comp. If they're 1099, they may be through their own self coverage or could possibly be covered under your workers' comp, depending on your state and other factors. You can reach out to your insurance carrier, your workers' comp insurance carrier, to clarify that in regards to your state and your policy if you're not sure about your 1099. Same goes with any other independent contractor, like a 1099. They should carry their own workers' comp. So, like when we say, I guess I should say independent contract workers, this in this next scenario, think about things like maintenance people that you call to come fix something, or a third party housekeeping company, any of those type of vendors that might come in and do stuff. They should carry their own workers' comp coverage. You should also have that certificate of coverage on file, as well as a hold harmless agreement. So vendors and other contract workers, again, same thing. Um, Now, there can be instances because some people say, well, when I do my insurance audit, my workers' comp insurance audit at the end of the year, it asks me about any 1099 individuals who didn't have their own coverage. Yep, you might can pick them up, like farriers and things like that. Depending on your state and your coverage, you might be able to pick up and pay for those 1099 individuals if they did not have their own workers' comp coverage. But you need to know that before you utilize and hire their services. Or it's nice to have that clarified and clear, and making sure you're getting those hold harmless agreements in place. Volunteers, they might be workers' comp or they might not. Some states do not allow volunteers to be covered under workers' comp and require you to have what's called a volunteer policy, while other states, you just need to have an endorsement on your workers' comp policy. So if you are utilizing or plan to utilize or allow volunteers in your practice, number one question, ask your carrier, if I have a volunteer, are they automatically covered under my workers' comp? Or do I need to have an endorsement? Or do I need to seek a volunteer policy? So there's three different potentials there. Students. Students do not automatically assume that the school is covering them. Verify, are they covered? And that's not, hey, student, are you? That's, hey, school, are they? Make sure you're asking the school, are they covered? Are they covered under your workers' comp? Again, kind of think about that in the volunteer situation. Reach out to the carrier and ask, or see if you need to seek a volunteer policy. However, before you cover them as a quote unquote volunteer, remember that's going to depend on the role and activities that they're engaged in at your practice. So again, the big important thing is never make assumptions for anyone outside of your employees. Talk to your carrier, discuss the uniqueness of your practice and your needs. Your insurance carrier is there to help you. So you'd rather know that ahead of time than having an injury and finding out you don't have the coverage in place and you're paying out of pocket. So I also get this question is hold harmless agreements, coverages, all that good stuff. Does that protect me from any additional liabilities or lawsuits? Oh, if only I could say that was true. We have to remember that anyone, for any reason, can try or attempt to sue anyone at any time. That is a lawyer deciding whether or not they feel like there's a case there, right? Or a loophole or an opportunity. So it's going to minimize your risks. It cannot eliminate, unfortunately, because it just depends on what you're being sued for, the grounds, the angle, any of these things. Uh, just another quick question, quick point out too. Internships are typically workers' comp, but again, discuss with your carrier the specifics and uniqueness of the individuals who engage and interact in your practice. All right, so here is my information. Should you have any additional questions or concerns, I'm absolutely here and happy to help. That also includes if you are unsure if you qualify or are eligible for risk service benefits, which is complimentary under the AVMA PLIT program. I'd be most happy to look up your practice or your organization and see if those benefits extend to you and provide you that information. Or, like I said, if you had questions about policies or coverages, I can help facilitate getting you to the right individuals who can answer those questions. Or if you just had a quick question about claims or post-injury management best practices, I am here and happy to help.
Thank you, Jessica. And if anyone is a PLIT member, definitely take her up on this inspection or the risk analysis, I should say, not an inspection, because I've actually been able to do two with her, and they're great. There's so much information and detail that you don't know until she comes in and she's like, "Hey, did you know?" And so I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from my own business that I do as my consulting with following her around and sharing. So please look into it if you are an AVMA PLIT member. That would be awesome.
Yeah, and happy to help. So, in the resources provided to attendees for this session is the slide deck, as well as injury forms, witness statements, and a step-by-step incident investigation guide. Return to work programs. Some states have very specific forms and specific processes that you must adhere to and go through when it comes to return to work. And so reach out to me directly. Let me know what state you're in and that you're interested because you want to develop your own grab and go kit and help make that as efficient and as compliant as possible. And I'd be happy to ensure that you adhere to your state's requirements and have those documents. Happy to help you all who are on this call with that information.
Thank you, Jessica. And I will send out the slides when I send out the link to the video. So you guys will get that from me probably next week. So if there's any questions, please feel free to unmute and shout out. If not, then I will wrap it up early. I love it when we can do early things. So if anyone has any questions. All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. I so appreciate you coming on. I think this is your third webinar for me. So I've enjoyed having you. Yeah, she did an embezzlement one. So if you go back and look about adulteration, is it adulteration? Is that the word we used?
Yeah.
Yeah, embezzlement. Oh, it was a good one. So and then
Theft, fraud, and adulteration. It was a good.
yes, theft, fraud, and adulteration. It was really good. So please feel free to go back and look anytime on my channel and to check out previous videos from Jessica or any of my other speakers. So I will be doing next month will be whatever that second Thursday is. And off the top of my head, I don't know. But hopefully you guys will sign up. I will be sending out the information for that topic in a few weeks. So thank you all for joining me today. I appreciate everyone's time. And I hope you have a great upcoming weekend in a day. So I hope you guys have a great time. All right, let me stop.